Yeah, this is a lot of traffic right now. This is the most traffic I think I've seen during the entire fight. Actually, yeah, guys, this is the most traffic we've had during the entire fight. 18,000 concurrent visitors, 19,000 on Battle for the Net. The biggest measure of success today is just like, what was the level of freak out?
Commissioner Clyburn.
I dissent.
The FCC has clearly gone rogue. They're not working for the public. They're working for Verizon, AT&T, and Comcast.
The chair votes aye. The item is adopted with editorial privileges granted as requested.
I'm seeing everyone's pre-written news stories go out. It happened? All right. I'm gonna kick the press statement and just do a bunch on social. Joe, can you go like all in now on Reddit? They're about to hand those companies a massive amount of unprecedented power that they've never had before. We're gonna make sure that that doesn't happen.
I'm in Boston at the headquarters of Fight for the Future, an activist organization at the forefront of the fight for an equal internet.
What's happening today?
We're about to open up a serious internet-sized can of whoop ass on Congress and make sure that they overturn this vote. Regardless of the vote today, they really, really tried and spent millions and millions of dollars trying to turn this into a partisan issue, trying to spread misinformation about it, and they just botched it. They failed. The polls just show over and over again that people side with us every single time. More than 83% of voters from across the political spectrum are against this. And, you know, there's only so much public influence that money can buy, and I think that's what they're running up against.
Tiffany Chang and Holmes Wilson, the co-founders of Fight for the Future, see this gap between public opinion and FCC policy as a big problem.
I think it's pretty clear that the FCC has been captured. We're talking about the FCC pushing through a repeal of net neutrality against what the courts have said, against what the majority of internet users and Americans have called for, and upended 22 years of precedents around net neutrality.
The easiest person to get mad at for the FCC going against public opinion is Chairman Ajit Pai, a former Verizon lawyer who openly mocks the seriousness of internet culture.
You can still drive memes right into the ground.
But as easy as it is to focus on trashing Ajit Pai, Fight for the Future is focusing on Congress, where public outrage tends to have more of an effect.
Protesters gathered outside the offices of Senator Schumer and Gillibrand, two co-sponsors of PIPA.
Who loves the internet?
Fight for the Future started in 2011 after a bill threatened to block entire communities and websites from the internet at the whims of copyright holders.
What happened was the largest online protest in history, and it did actually strike down the bill. Something that seems impossible and unimaginable.
DC is basically surrounded in a bubble of narratives created by lobbyists. In order to break that, it's not just about raising more money to pull them away from that, it's about being good enough at telling a story and about getting a message out that you can punch through that bubble and get some kind of narrative into DC that actually corresponds with the reality of what America needs and wants.
This time, thanks to the Congressional Review Act of 1996, Congress can pass what is called a resolution of disapproval to effectively block the FCC's repeal of net neutrality. Along with several other organizations, Fight for the Future called on Congress to take immediate action.
I am announcing my support for a Congressional Review Act resolution that will restore net neutrality and undo the evil repeal of it by the FCC. And all we need is a majority vote in the House and a majority vote in the Senate, and it happens.
The telecom companies can't make any real investment or changes to their networks until they know net neutrality can't be easily reinstated with a vote of disapproval in Congress or a change of heart at the FCC. So one of the biggest priorities for Fight for the Future is creating a clear resource of facts so that public outrage isn't manipulated by telecoms.
The ISP's plan on this has essentially been to do a kind of 1-2 punch. They got the FCC to undo the rules, but then in order to kind of make that permanent, they want to use that as a kind of pretext to get Congress to pass fake legislation to save net neutrality that's actually legislation that would undermine it permanently. But their plan is to kind of create a crisis by using the FCC to undo the rules and then get Congress to step in to sort of save the day, but actually pass legislation that would permanently take away the FCC's ability to put back strong rules and and put in place kind of weak rules that the ISPs would be fine with.
You can look for legislation next week where Congress will do its job.
The telecom lobby is hoping that it can sway lawmakers with money while discouraging the American public from its support for net neutrality by appealing to hyperpartisanship. The key to fighting that will be using the internet to preserve a free and open web for the future.
The traffic that we saw in the hour after the vote is the most number of people we've ever seen talking about net neutrality, at least using our tools and pages, ever in the history of the work that we've been doing on net neutrality in a single hour. I think, what we saw today shows that in the end, these lobbyists are never going to win. The internet's always going to win.